The hangar fell silent, except for the steady ping-ping-ping of oil dripping from my plane's belly onto the concrete floor. 23 pairs of eyes stared at me like I'd just declared my intention to fly to Mars using a paper airplane and sheer willpower, that rust bucket? Commander Hayes's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Martinez, that thing belongs in a scrapyard, not on an airfield. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I kept my hands steady on the clipboard, though every muscle in my body wanted to curl into fists. Breathe, Elena, just breathe. The familiar weight of my father's St. Christopher pendant pressed against my chest beneath my flight suit. The same pendant he'd worn through 3 tours in Vietnam. The same one that had been with him when his F-4 Phantom went down over the jungle in 1972. Sir, with respect, she's airworthy, I said, my voice carrying the slight accent that marked me as different here at Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada. 26 years old, and I still sounded like the little girl who'd grown up speaking Spanish at home in East L.A. I've logged over 200 hours in her, and 200 hours in a museum piece doesn't qualify you for red flag, Martinez. Colonel Davidson stepped forward, his silver hair catching the harsh fluorescent lights. Behind him, the other pilots, all male, all white, all born with silver spoons and trust funds, exchanged knowing glances. This is the most advanced aerial combat training exercise in the world. We don't have time for charity cases. My plane sat behind me like a loyal dog, battered but proud. She was a 1979 A4 Skyhawk, older than some of the pilots in this room. Her paint had faded from navy blue to something closer to dusty gray. And yes, there were patches of primer where we'd repaired metal fatigue. But she was mine, bought with every penny I'd saved from 3 years of working double shifts at the aircraft maintenance depot. Every dollar I'd earned fixing other people's planes while dreaming of flying my own. The aircraft meets all safety requirements, I said, louder this time. I have my certifications, my medical clearance, and I qualified for this slot fair and square. Captain Viper Morrison, a hotshot F-16 pilot whose daddy happened to be a Pentagon general, stepped out of the group with that swagger all the golden boys seemed to inherit at birth. Look, sweetheart, he drawled. I get it. Affirmative. Action and all that. But this isn't some diversity photo op. People could die if you can't keep up. The hangar erupted in snickers and whispered agreements. Someone in the back muttered something about taco trucks that made my blood boil. But I held my ground. That's when she walked in. Brigadier General Patricia Ice Queen Winters commanded attention without saying a word. The daughter of a world War II ace, she'd broken more glass ceilings than anyone in the Air Force. Her steel gray eyes swept the hangar, taking in the scene with the calculating precision of a predator evaluating prey. Gentlemen, her voice could have frozen fire. I seem to have interrupted something. Care to enlighten me? Commander Hayes stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable. Ma'am, we were just discussing aircraft assignments for red flag. There seems to be some concern about Lieutenant Martinez's equipment. General Winters walked slowly around my Skyhawk, her practiced eye taking in every rivet, every patch, every battle scar. She ran her fingers along the wing edge where I'd personally welded a stress crack back together. Concern? She turned back to the group. About what, exactly? Ma'am, Viper spoke up, that plane is older than some of our pilots. It's a safety hazard. Is that your professional assessment, Captain Morrison? Yes, ma'am. General Winters nodded slowly. Then she did something I'll never forget. She smiled, not a warm smile, but the smile of a shark that's just spotted blood in the water. Tell you what, Captain, since you're so concerned about Lieutenant Martinez's capabilities, why don't we settle this right here, right now? She checked her watch. It's 1400 hours. The range is clear. Lieutenant Martinez, Are you up for a little demonstration? My heart hammered against my ribs. What kind of demonstration, ma'am? Simple. You and Captain Morrison. Air-to-air combat exercise. Winner stays in red flag. Loser. She shrugged. Well, I guess we'll see. The hangar exploded in whispers and shifting feet. Viper's face had gone pale, but he couldn't back down now, not in front of everyone. Ma'am, with respect, that hardly seems fair. My F-16 versus ... He gestured dismissively at my plane. Scared, Captain? That did it. Viper's face flushed red. No, ma'am. When do we fly? Right now. 30 minutes later, I was running through my pre-flight checks while a crowd gathered on the observation deck. My hands moved automatically through the familiar routine fuel levels. Hydraulics, avionics, weapon systems. Disabled for the exercise, of course. The Skyhawk might have been old, but she was honest. No fly-by-wire computers to second-guess. No fancy displays to distract from the pure joy of flying. Just me, her, and the sky. I thought about my father as I strapped in. Miguel Martinez had never lived to see me fly, never knew that his little girl would follow in his footsteps. He died when I was 8, not in combat, but in a car accident, on his way to work at the Boeing plant. But he'd filled my childhood with stories of flying, had taken me to air shows, had taught me to see the sky not as an empty space, but as an ocean of possibilities. You ready for this, scrap metal? Viper's voice crackled through the radio as his F-16 taxied past. The Falcon was beautiful, sleek, deadly, worth about $40 million compared to my $250,000 antique. Ready when you are. Trust fund, I replied, and I heard someone on the radio suppress a laugh. We took off into the perfect Nevada sky, clear, blue, with just enough wind to make things interesting. The exercise parameters were simple. 15-minute engagement, mock missiles only. First to achieve a kill position wins. Standard BV are beyond visual range engagement, then merge to close combat if necessary. I climbed to 20,000 feet and immediately felt the familiar sensation of coming home. This was where I belonged, where the ground fell away and nothing mattered except the marriage of machine and pilot, physics and intuition. Bandits, bandits. Viper has radar contact, bearing 09020. Miles and closing. The AWACS controller's voice filled my headset. I could see him on my scopa, bright blip racing toward me with all the confidence of superior technology and expensive training. He was coming straight on, no deception, no guile. Just raw speed. And firepower. Mistake number 1. Flyboy. I cranked my Skyhawk into a hard right turn, diving toward the desert floor while keeping one eye on my radar warning receiver. His PG-68 radar was painting me like a Christmas tree, but that was okay. I wanted him to see me. Fox 1, Fox 1. Viper called out, indicating a simulated missile launch. I smiled inside my oxygen mask. He'd fired from too far out, probably hoping to end this quick and embarrassing. I pulled into a violent left brake, diving deeper while dispensing chaff to confuse his missile guidance. The simulated AIM-12 OMRAM missed by a mile. Negative hit, Viper, the controller called. Continue engagement. Now came the fun part. Viper was coming around for another pass, but he'd made mistake number 2. He'd assumed I'd run. Instead, I'd used his missile flight time to get below and behind him, turning this into the kind of knife fight where experience mattered more than technology. Where'd she go? I heard him mutter over the radio. Right here, gorgeous, I said, pulling up into a climbing turn that brought me onto his 6 o'clock. The old Skyhawk groaned under the G's, but she held together like she always had. Viper saw me coming and pulled into a hard defensive turn, trying to use his superior thrust-to-weight ratio to escape. But I'd been flying this plane for 3 years, knew every rivet and wire. More importantly, I'd grown up poor, hungry, and with everything to prove. That kind of motivation doesn't come standard with trust funds. For the next 10 minutes we danced across the Nevada sky, a deadly ballet of thrust and lift, energy management, and spatial awareness. Viper had every technological advantage, but I had something he didn't. I'd learned to fly on a machine that demanded perfection because it couldn't forgive mistakes. He tried a split-S maneuver, diving toward the deck to reverse our positions. I followed him down, matching him turn for turn. He pulled a high yo-yo, trading airspeed for altitude. I countered with a barrel roll that kept him in sight while preserving my energy state. "Damn," someone whispered over the radio. "She's actually staying with him," but staying with him wasn't enough. I needed to win. That's when I remembered something my father had told me, a story from his time in Vietnam. "Mia, sometimes the smallest bird can catch the biggest hawk. You know how? She doesn't try to outfly him, she outthinks him." Viper was getting frustrated. I could hear it in his breathing over the radio, see it in his increasingly aggressive maneuvers. He was burning fuel and energy trying to shake me, forgetting the first rule of air combat: patience. Mistake number 3. I let him get ahead of me, let him think he was gaining separation. He climbed, probably planning to come back down with an energy advantage. I climbed too, but at a different angle, using a technique I'd learned not from the Air Force, but from studying World War II. Dogfighting tactics, something they didn't teach much anymore in the age of beyond visual range combat. As he peaked his climb and started to come back down, I was already there, having anticipated his move. For just a moment, maybe 3 seconds, I had a perfect firing solution. "Fox 2, good kill on the F-16. I called out, indicating a simulated sidewinder shot. The silence on the radio stretched for what felt like forever. "Confirm kill," the AWACS controller finally said. "Exercise terminated. All aircraft returned to base." I could hear my own heartbeat as I flew home, the ancient skyhawk purring beneath me like a contented cat. Below us, the Nevada desert stretched to the horizon, beautiful and indifferent. The landing pattern was crowded with spectators. Word had apparently gotten out, and it seemed like half the base had gathered to watch the aftermath. I touched down as gently as I could, trying not to show off, and taxied to my assigned spot. As I shut down the engine, the silence was deafening. Then, slowly, someone started clapping, then another person. Within seconds, the entire flight line erupted in applause. General Winters was waiting for me as I climbed out of the cockpit. Her face was unreadable. "Hell of a flying, Lieutenant." "Thank you, ma'am." She walked over to my plane and patted the nose cone gently. "What do you call her?" I felt heat rise in my cheeks. "Esperanza, ma'am. It means hope in Spanish." "Hope," she nodded slowly. "Fitting." Then she turned to address the crowd that had gathered around us. "Gentlemen, let this be a lesson. In aviation, as in life, it's not the size of the aircraft that matters. It's the size of the pilot's heart." Viper approached, his helmet under his arm and his pride clearly wounded. For a moment, I thought he might say something cruel, something about luck or fluke victories. Instead, he extended his hand. That was really good flying," he said quietly. "I underestimated you." "We all did," Commander Hayes added, stepping forward. "Lieutenant Martinez, you've more than earned your spot in Red Flag." As the crowd began to disperse, I found myself alone with Esperanza for a moment. I ran my hand along her battered fuselage, feeling every patch and weld, every story written in aluminum and determination. "We did it, girl," I whispered. "We actually did it." That was 5 years ago. Today, I'm Captain Elena Martinez, and I've logged over 2,000 hours in combat zones from Afghanistan to Syria. Esperanza is long gone retired to an aviation museum where she belongs, with a plaque that reads, "Donated by Captain Elena Martinez, who proved that courage doesn't require the newest technology, just the oldest virtues, skill, determination, and heart." I fly an F-35 Lightning now, the most advanced fighter jet in the world. It's an incredible machine, capable of things that would have seemed like magic to my father's generation. But sometimes, late at night in some distant hangar, I still think about that old Skyhawk and the lesson she taught everyone who witnessed that day. Never judge a pilot by her plane. Judge her by her sky. The young pilots who come through my squadron, now men and women from every background imaginable, sometimes ask me about that day at Nellis. They want to know the secret, the trick, the magic formula for winning against superior odds. I tell them what my father told me, what Esperanza taught me, what the sky itself whispers to those who listen. It's not about having the best equipment. It's about being the best version of yourself, when it matters most. They called her scrap metal until the day she outflew every fighter jet on the base. But the real victory wasn't in the flying, it was in refusing to let anyone else define what was possible. In America, we have a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Esperanza was a small dog with a very big fight, just like her pilot, Captain Elena Martinez, United States Air Force.